yourself for the apocalypse.
Alright Guardians, what's going on? It's your man Harvester here today, and I want to do something a little bit different as far as reviews go. Most of the reviews you guys see, I'm sure you're used to the normal DPS numbers and going to Greg, as everybody calls him, and just seeing numbers and rate of fire, and this is what the gun does. However, what I think we want to talk about today is the difference we're having here between console and PC. So there's a noted discretion between the two, where the accuracy and the recoil on PC is much less than what it is here on console. And so with a lot of the YouTuber reviews that you guys are seeing, almost all those guys play on PC, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, I feel like it's beginning to kind of skew the way that weapons are looked at by those reviewers. So I want to take a look at some of that and talk about that a little bit today and do things a little differently. So I want to start off by saying that this is not a video here to bash any other YouTubers or anything like that. I think those guys do an amazing job coming up with all the DPS numbers for each weapon and whatnot. Aztecross Gaming is one of my favorite fucking YouTubers of all time. He has a lot of really good reviews, and he does a great job of trying to make sure that he takes into account that difference and shows off what things are like on controller and what they're like on mouse and keyboard. But at the same time, he only plays on PC, and that is, like I said, it's making a big difference in what is good and what is not when it comes to those YouTubers. So the line was kind of drawn for me when I watched a review of this gun right here, the braytech werewolf. And it was put up against not other auto rifles in the same class or even, just other auto rifles in general. It was put up against an SMG. Now, nothing wrong with SMGs. They are really good right now. The Recluse obviously is amazing. We all use it. But when you're talking about anything other than the Recluse, SMGs are not where they need to be on console. The range difference on PC and console with a SMG is extreme. The Recluse is really good on console because of the 93% buff in body shot damage that it gets from the Master of Arms perk. But without that, you wouldn't be using it. And you guys can argue that with me all you want, but how many headshots are you really getting with your Recluse? Most of the reason you're destroying enemies with it right away is because that body shot damage is the same as the headshot damage. And so that makes a big difference in what you're actually going to be using. So the big difference here on console is that, with an SMG, I tend to use that as a close range weapon, almost shotgun range type weapon. And on PC, you're able to use this far into the mid ranges. I've even seen most of the videos I've watched, they're using them at what I would consider almost a long range. And that's just not doable here on console. It doesn't matter what the exact DPS numbers of an SMG are or of any weapon. If you're not hitting your headshots, or worse, you're missing most of your shots, your time to kill is going to be much less than it is with a weapon that does less damage, but that you are actually hitting all of your shots. So we're going to take a look at the braytech werewolf here and see if what other reviewers have said is accurate here on console, because I feel like that large disconnect is making it a lot harder for us to see what weapons we should be using here on console and what weapons are just good overall. Now, I will admit that there are those console gods out there, and I'm sure I'll see in the comments somewhere that someone who says, oh, I have no trouble with recoil on console. Most of us are not that way. These guys are basically, thumbs are attached to the console directly, and that's not something that most of us can do. So for a lot of us, it's just as useful to know how functional a weapon is along with how powerful it is. So that's what I want to try and do here. I want to do a weekly video going over little-known weapons or lesser talked-about weapons that may actually be very viable here on console and not something that everyone uses as much because they're not the best DPS weapons out there. If there's anything that you guys have in particular, any weapons that you can think of that you want to see a review like this done on, feel free to leave that in the comment section, and I'll try to work in whichever ones you guys have. I have a couple in mind that I'd like to do here starting out, but I am down for any suggestions that you guys may have. I do want to throw in here that we're going to be talking about these weapons mainly in terms of PvE, not PvP. I'm not a big PvP guy. I do play, but it's just not my thing right now. It's in such a weird place that I just haven't really been able to get myself into it. If you guys want to see some PvP stuff, I can do that, but it's all going to be... Most of the other guys' reviews on those weapons are pretty accurate. It's going to be more on your TTK values than it is about your accuracy values. While you can do good with that, it's going to come down to your overall skill level in that concept. But I do want to talk about different things that you can be using. There's a lot of higher end content that aren't raids and aren't your normal things that we talk about. We have the new Nightfalls, and we have the nightmare hunts and things like that you know you may not want to be right up next to somebody with an SMG, or you need to stay back a little bit, which is where I feel like this weapon in particular shines, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. And yeah, that's about all we're gonna have for now, and we'll jump into this review. So the braytech werewolf is a precision frame. This is the curated roll, the only one that really matters. It's got multi-kill clip, Zen moment, and armor piercing rounds. This is gonna come in really handy for a lot of your higher end stuff. So right here, we're going to have a body shot of 543 and a headshot of 1595, and then we're going to go through some of the different numbers as we move through this multi-kill clip. So with the one kill here, we're going to end up coming up with a body shot damage of, 1622, and a headshot of 1881. And then we're going to continue here and just kind of show off the way that these numbers jump up. Now, multi-kill clip is a really good perk right now. It's the highest damage perk that we can get. Most of our damage perks got nerfed down into nothingness, and so this is the only one that still goes up to 66% on ×3. It's a little hard to keep up the ×3 as far as instead of Rampage, where it's constantly just staying at ×3. What you're going to need to do is kind of get 3 kills, reload, get another 3 kills, reload, and you'll stay up there at that higher level. So one thing I do want to kind of show off here is the amount of damage that we're talking about. Now for an auto rifle, they're not in the greatest place. Right now they do need a little bit of a buff. But when you do have that ×3 procced, and we're going into things, majors are not going to be that big a deal. It's going to be much easier to take those down. As you can see, we did a decent amount of damage to that knight before we ran out, and we had already killed the other ad first. So it does work pretty well. We're going to look at our range here. Now, with this weapon, your max range is going to be right about here. I would say that's probably 30-ish meters, maybe pushing 40. For an auto rifle, that's absolutely amazing. That's a really far range to be able to still be hitting your max damage, especially once you get your kill clips in there and stuff like that. It works really well as far as your versatility. You can use this as a moving into long range shots like you would a pulse rifle or scout. Now, obviously they're not going to reach that same level, but you're still getting your max values from all the way back here, which I feel is really good for an auto rifle. When you're talking about the difference here between SMGs and auto rifles, we have... I gotta get more ammo here. But when we're talking about that, we've got a large difference. So we're going to get into what that looks like. So here's our max range back here, like we said. And then here in just a second, I'm going to pull out this SMG, and we'll kind of look at what the difference in actual damage fall off looks like, and what kind of ranges we're looking at there. So... there we go. And then we're gonna run up here, and we'll kind of show you. I have the swashbuckler on this. This is a really good rolled subjunctive, which is actually the SMG that this auto rifle was put up against. And with the swashbuckler, it does really good damage. It does a lot of damage output. But as you can see already, I'm not that far from this guy, and I'm already having trouble holding onto the recoil. I use Recluse a lot, so I'm pretty used to these SMGs at this point, and I'm still having a lot of trouble getting headshots, as you can see. So we have a much different range here. If you try to shoot at this night, you can see I'm all over the place. And this is what I was talking about. If you're not hitting your shots, it doesn't matter if I'm doing way more damage with a lot more bullets or, better DPS with this weapon. If I'm not hitting those shots, it's going to take me longer to kill this knight with this SMG than it is for me to use this auto rifle that maybe isn't as good DPS-wise, but it's much easier for me to hit all of my shots. So as long as, if you see earlier with the Zen Moment perk on this auto rifle, it makes it amazing because you have those long ranges, but you're still able to stay on target. After your first maybe 5 or 6 shots that you land into a target, you're pretty much laser accuracy. There is no recoil anymore. So that's one of the main benefits to the braytech werewolf that I feel like makes it a really good weapon here on console. And something that if you didn't have your eye on before, I really think that you should take a second look at. Because while it's not a super high DPS weapon, for a lot of these encounters where you're maybe not in the very end game content, but in some harder stuff, you don't want to be super aggressive. You need to kind of hang back a little bit and work enemies down. this is a really great weapon for doing that. It's very versatile. You can use it in short range by not using the scope and take things out pretty quickly. It has a decent time to kill with most ads, red bar ads and stuff like that. And once you've got your kill clip times 3, you're doing a lot more damage to those majors and actually able to take out a couple of those too. So I feel like if it's something that you haven't really looked at, you should definitely take a look at the braytech. I enjoy it. I've been using it a lot since it came out, and this paint job is just amazing. So you should definitely take a look at that. But as far as this review goes, I think that's going to be pretty much it. If you guys like this kind of thing and want to see some of the more versatile weapons or some of the easier to use weapons here on console, then make sure to comment down at the bottom what you'd like to see, and make sure to subscribe so that you see more content when it comes out. And I'm going to leave you with a little bit more gameplay of this, and hopefully you guys will show up next time. Bye.